OK, let's take a look at some of the new employment figures just out. We've got a new report suggesting that hiring across the GCC has actually edged up by 1% in the first quarter. But as you can imagine, the picture is far from straightforward. So we're going to find out now what's actually happening in the jobs market. Let's speak to the author of that survey. Joining us now live in the studio is Dr. Trefor Murphy, the founder and CEO of Cooper Fitch. Trefor, lovely to have you in.
Thank
How are
you, Georgia.
you?
Good morning.
You made it in despite the sudden road changes, which we'd all struggled with.
Despite the sudden road changes. A producer very nervous this morning asking me where I was. So,
no, you left us waiting in the morning. But that's a good thing because you've got some amazing figures to talk about and very, very unexpected. That top line there, 1% growth across the GCC. Given everything that we've seen this quarter, it's quite difficult to figure out how to read these numbers.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look, I think it's probably a story of two tales. First of all, okay. January, February, very strong. February, the strongest month we've had in, I think, 24 months. This year, weaker March. Probably we saw a drop in March of about 12% in the month of March. On the overall, it was a bit of a Christmas Eve scenario. Santa Claus checking his numbers twice to make sure that we had missed something or we hadn't added in something twice.
Yeah.
0.9 of 1%, just under 1% growth across the GCC is pretty outrageous as a number, to be very honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's astonishing. It's the same for the UAE as well, isn't it?
Yeah, just 1%, just over 1% in the UAE, 0.5% in Saudi. Some of the other markets a little bit flatter and a couple in low minus numbers. Again, really edged up or held up by a very strong Jan-Feb.
OK, so let's talk about that January and February, because let's be honest, we all know that everything went very, very quiet in March, I imagine. Although I will ask you about that in a second. Yeah. OK, what areas did you see growth? What sectors were people actually getting hired in those first 2 months of the year?
Again, it's difficult to understand why, but HR had its best quarter.
HR?
HR,
oh, okay.
Particularly on the compensation and benefits. So C&B practice, very big. Learning and development, all of those things that are really very much longer term initiatives in an organisation, not immediate hires or changes in which are slightly more immediate in terms of hiring for internal talent acquisition people. So HR, sales and marketing, probably a lot of organizations had started to develop a stronger, more optimistic view in quarter four on what this year was going to look like. And we're really looking at making lots of hires in that area. Supply chain, legal, some of the technology areas, cyber, security, etc., having a strong period. And then investments and real estate, two sectors, two practice areas for us that have always done well, had good, strong starts to the year.
Any sectors slowing?
So probably over the quarter, finance and strategy continued to dip down ever so slightly, so small decreases. We had banking that took a big hit in March, and then mining and energy both having kind of strong negative numbers over the quarter as well, even though they had quite good starts to the beginning of the year.
I suppose before the conflict started, the conflict started in the middle of Ramadan, didn't it? So we had Ramadan and Eid. So would you have expected this quarter to be quieter because of that, or do hiring patterns just continue throughout those periods?
Ever so slight dip. Quarter one is normally the strongest quarter in recruitment. Here, probably globally, I think we probably, having Ramadan and Eid period within quarter one, we would always see maybe a slightly tapered number there. But we were thinking by the end of February, we were looking at 4%, maybe even 4.5% growth So March really took the steam out of that as a rolling number.
Yeah, let's talk about March
Yeah.
in a bit more detail.
Yeah.
I mean, did hiring just stop? I mean, I'm always interested to know what happens in these types of things, because obviously that we've heard a lot in the UAE about,
Yeah.
positivity for the future.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's just lip service. I think people really do believe that once this stops,
Yeah.
we'll get this acceleration of growth again.
Yeah. Look, we reported a -6.5% growth 7 quarters ago. I actually can't remember what that was. There was something. I think so. If this
Tariffs. I reckon it was tariffs.
It might even be pre-tariff problems,
pre-tariffs.
but something else. But there's always something globally, I guess, that drives these numbers a bit askew. Look, I guess what I'm saying, if the number was 4 or -5 or -10%, we would produce that number. We saw about a 12% dip in March. I just think that recruitment continued. It continued to go through the steps. We continued to make the same or similar amount of hires in March that we did in other months, but that's not the full story either, right?
Yeah.
Because will the searches that came on in March, will they continue in April, May? Will they close? Will they successfully close? Will they make hires? That's all to be seen in the future, right? But as a number of new searches down by 12%, process is more or less continued. Maybe there might have been a 5 or 10% drop off, but there's always a drop off for something.
Yeah.
Obviously, like everyone else, we hope things will get sorted very quickly. But ultimately, we've stacked up really well in Q1 across the 2 big markets, Saudi and UAE. Overall, a good number for the GCC. So it's just we're hoping that's it. That's the last insider input into the numbers that we have. But I guess we're waiting, like everyone else, to see what that looks like.
Wait and see. Trevor, as always, thank you so much for joining us on the Business Breakfast. Really appreciate your time. Dr. Trevor Murphy, the founder and CEO of Cooper Fitch.